Hey everyone, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Mau5trap Techno, like no mana, and I.O. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's get started. So here's the project file. We're at 130 BPM, very standard techno BPM. First sound we have here is the kick. So you can hear it's just this nice fat kick. If you look at this waveform, it pretty much tells you everything you need to know, It's like a very big transient at the start, and then kind of like, a bit boomier bass as the sound goes on, but it's really just about that quick, like, on the start there. And then we just have some drum bass on that, you can see, kind of beefing it up a bit, making it hit a bit more with the transients. The boom is also adding bass, because if you don't have the right bass in your kick with this style, it's not going to work as well. And yeah, then we have the bass, which sounds like this. So this is a very interesting bass line it's actually playing sort of chords, because you can see it's 2 notes at a time here. But the idea is that the main bass line is really this. It's just that rolling 16th note bass like that, and then these notes on top are just really kind of like almost like a lead. It's just adding that extra sort of melodic thing. And yeah, and if you look at this too, you'll notice it's actually kind of playing like a E major chord, because you can see we have E and then G sharp, which would be the major third, but then we have this kind of like dark scale happening. And then you can see also the low note, so the E just plays constant 16th notes, but then these top notes do something a little bit different like that. So it's kind of creating a cool groove just inside of the notes. For the sound with this one, it's made with operator, but there's actually no FM synthesis happening. So if you look at this, you can see we have this algorithm here for the FM. So what this is doing is this basically just makes it so that the oscillators are just playing side by side. So we're not doing any FM here. But what's happening is we have a saw wave and we have a square wave. And the square wave's an octave up. So here's just the saw wave. And then you can hear when we add in the square wave, it just gives it that extra push of fatness. So that's really what that's doing. It's just making the waveform that much fatter. And then those are going into a low-pass filter, which you can see has an envelope on it. This is how the envelope's shaped. So yeah, the envelope's pretty important with this one. And the filter in general, like if I turn that off, the filter's really what adds that sort of like punchiness to the sound. And yeah, then we have this width rack. So this width rack is actually, this is my width rack that I use to kind of spread sounds out. And the way I've set this up here actually is basically, it's just multi-band widening. So you can see like we have this EQ3 here, we have the high chain, this is the mid chain, and then we have the low chain. And if you listen to the low chain, so this is really like the driving bass line. These are really just like, as you can hear, like kind of the some of the high mid-range and then the top end. So the real like low frequencies here are completely mono. And you'll see I also have this bass mono at the end of the chain, so it's doing that even more. So yeah, I noticed, because you want this to be a bit wide, but you only want the mid-range and the high end to be wide. Otherwise, it's going to mess up the lows, and it's just going to make it sound kind of weird. So just, the multi-band widening works really well. And if you want this width rack, this is in the description. And then we have this drum bus. So this is just, you can see, really fattening it up a lot. The thing is, like, this bass isn't going to sound like this just coming right out of the synth. And it's not really going to sound like it if you just put one saturator on either. Like, you really need some, like, strong, hard processing to get it to sound like this. And if I turn this off, know, that's what it's gonna sound like coming straight out of the synth. Like, obviously, it's not a bad sound, but this is what really gives it that push. Then we have a compressor, which is just sidechaining this to the kick, and I have this EQ8 here, which is cutting out a bit of room at 100 hertz and then boosting the lows a bit. And then finally, we just have this utility, converting the bass to mono, so you can see that anything below 291 hertz is mono now, so that works really well. And yeah, and then on the group of low end, we just have this saturation. So here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear, this is really just giving it that last little push to kind of glue these together. Like, it's actually pretty subtle because these are already really hard hitting sounds on their own. But without it, and then with it, you just hear that extra little like push in the kick and the extra fatness in the bass line, and it really ties the whole thing together. And it's also like, the thing is, when you have techno like this, where you're using a bass line instead of a rumble kick, I always try to treat the bass line as if it was the rumble in a rumble kick. So typically, when you make a rumble kick, you know, you would process it all together as one because it's just a kick, but the bass and the kick are kind of in the same thing. So that's the idea here. We're treating this as if it's like one instrument. Then we have this lead. So this is playing this kind of dark thing. You can see we're using like the 5th of E here because we're in the key of E, and then we have a B up here. So it's kind of like if you play it with the bass line, you can hear how this is working. And something that's happening here that's interesting is you'll notice the bass line, or at least the melody notes on the bass line, are going up here because we're going up to B and then down to A. But here we're going down and then up while it's happening. So it's kind of creating something interesting. Between those two parts, and you can hear like the musical synergy between those. It's really nice, actually. And then the lead is just playing, like, you know, this one hit every bar on the upbeat. Something that's happening here is you'll notice this percussion. See how the percussion kind of happens on the upbeat as well, like these two? I'll just play these two on their own. I feel like it's kind of like grooving with those. Like, you can hear, you know, it's not just like this lead, the way that that one lead fits into the groove. It's how it's fitting in with the other elements playing at the same time. You know, you really don't want to just think about just the one element, but you want to think about the overall track and how it's all fitting together. So yeah, and then with this one, for the sound, it's made using wavetables. So what we have here is we just have 2 saw waves, you can see. Yeah, pretty simple super saw sort of sound. We just got this going. The amp envelope is set like that, and then I just have this unison. And yeah, that's really it. Then we just have a bit of reverb and some drum bus to fatten it up a little bit more. But yeah, it's not really going to be like that much stuff you want to do. This type of sound is really just about getting like a beautiful synth, some nice oscillators that really sound good together, and just letting them breathe with like a little bit of processing to optimize it. But you know, if it's a good synth sound, you're not going to have to do too much stuff. Then we have the percussion. So you can hear we have like this clap. Just like a nice, fast, hard-hitting, very punchy clap like this. Then we have this rim shot and these other percussions, which you can hear. These 3 layers are kind of like all playing off of each other. How we get that like down. And something else that you'll notice, this rim shot is literally like every single time. Like every time the clap hits, you get a. And yeah, just having that happen really frequently is pretty important actually, because it's going to. You hear that like in the groove, even if you don't really notice it so much when you're hearing the track, you do hear that, and having that just happen constantly like that, like creates a lot of energy and intensity in the groove. And then with these percussions down here, so these are sort of like your more standard, like kind of deep techno percussions. And yeah, these are good because they kind of sit a little bit back in the mix. Like if you listen to it, you get the clap and that rim shot right up front. And these almost feel like they're like in the back of the room or something like that, you know? So it kind of creates a bit of space in the mix, and that's just because of the type of sounds they are. That's not any processing or anything like that. Then on the group of percussion, we just have a bit of drum bus, so here's without that. And then with it. So you can hear this just makes everything here a lot cleaner, a lot fatter, and more full sounding. Then we have the cymbals, which are pretty standard. You can see like we have an open hi-hat, which is just 2 layers. It's this one, kind of more of like a punch layer. And then this one, which adds like some nice bright high end. So we got those, just kind of creating that big fat hi-hat in the middle. Yeah, you want to make sure this is really fat. You can't just have like a little. It needs to be like a really big, full sound like this. Then we have a ride. You know, pretty standard techno ride. Got that being high pass. We have this noise as well, which when you listen to this, so here's it on its own. All it is it's just some white noise. And then you can see I've got an attack on it. So then we're doing like, to make it kind of pulse up like that. And then I have a high pass filter. And this is something actually, when you hear it in the mix, it doesn't really sound like it's like noise. Like it doesn't sound like you're hearing some noise right now. You can hear it a little bit easier when you solo this group, but it's still, what it really does is it just kind of starts to sound like there's more high end in your hi-hats essentially, without having to go in and do a bunch of crazy EQ boosting to make it really sharp. So that really helps to just kind of bring out the high end there. And then just a shaker. So again, same deal as the hi-hat, you know, it's a very fat sound. It's not just like a little, it's a really full like. And then on the group of cymbals, we just have some drum bus and then an EQ. So here's with nothing. And then with the processing, you can hear it's pretty sharp, but obviously you want it to hit super hard with this style of music. So just like fattening it a lot and bringing out the sharp transients with the drum bus, and then cutting out the low end and boosting the highs with the EQ. And yeah, and then the last thing we have down here are these effects. So basically what's happening is we have this, which is like these 2 little sounds just going. And then I'm just band passing those, and then it's going through some echo, and then I have a bit of a high-end boost. And then we have this one, which you can see is also going through some echo, and then that's got a high-end boost. And then it's like a bit of call and response. It's like, oofa. And yeah, this creates like a lot of movement in the mix. If you listen to the overall track, here's what it sounds like without these. It seems good, right? But watch what happens when we turn them on. It just gives it that extra kind of like flow, you know? It really brings the mix to life. And all it is, again, it's just like some little effects samples just going kind of with the beat. So you definitely want to make sure you add stuff like this, because it's going to add so much energy to the track, and this is going to be the difference between like an okay track and a really, really fire banger. And then with the group of those, we just have a bit of drum bus. Kind of glue them together, you know, it helps to bring them out, and it also brings out those echoes. And then this EQ here is just cutting out the low end and then boosting the highs a bit to kind of bring out that sharpness, because you really want these to just kind of be in the bright high end. Yeah, there we go. So, that is it for the effects, and that is going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $5. This is a great way to support me if you guys enjoyed these videos. It really helps when you pick those up. Plus, you get a bunch of great samples and MIDI and presets and a project file to work from. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.